All right. Thank you, Jaheim, and welcome back, everybody. Here we are in the top of the bottom, rather, of the first hour. What flew by fast. We're, of course, first hour of the show is sponsored by Cindy Searfoss Realty. Give Cindy a call for all your upstate real estate needs, 864-414-5271. And the show, of course, is presented to you by Manscaped. Use the code BIGSPUR for 20% off and free worldwide shipping at manscaped.com. Welcome in, Chris.
What's going on? Good morning. How are y'all?
Good. Good to be with you today, man.
JC, I'm loving the new haircut, man. That's looks good on you.
Hey, I said I was not gonna cut it till the Gamecocks lost. They lost. I actually saved myself $25 and did it at home.
I love it. Hey, I just respect you're a man of your word, man. That's incredible. It looks great, though. It looks great. How's the fiance, wifey, girlfriend?
Doing great. Yeah. She rolled through here a little while ago to wish me good luck on the show, and she sometimes listens. She's on the phone with her mom right now. Her mom speaks Thai, so there's a lot of foreign language conversation going on. It's probably about me. I don't know anything about it. I'm just like, and they're like, he's a bad man. What is he thinking with the haircut? It's kind of crazy. All right, so Chris, I'm gonna throw something at you. I wrote an article today on thebigspur.com, and I went back and looked at the history of Georgia, South Carolina. And you're familiar probably with all the past games because I see your countdown, and it's like the 100 best, 100 of the greatest moments of the last 30 years of Carolina football. I love it. It was the highlight of my day. And even like on Facebook, you'll go back and you'll see some old ones, and it's good. So started looking at this game. 22 games, 14-8 Georgia. A lot of close losses for the Gamecocks, some close wins for the Gamecocks, some close wins for Georgia, a couple blowouts here and there. One blowout for the Gamecocks, several blowouts for the Dogs. In most of those 22 years, Georgia had more talent, okay? What I found was the common theme in all of the games where Carolina's either played them close or it's been competitive or Carolina has won, the Gamecocks were able to match Georgia's physicality and toughness. And that's like 2008 when Carolina lost to freaking Vanderbilt the week before, came back, played Matt Stafford and those guys 14-7 at home. That's 17-15 Spurrier's first year. That's you kind of look and you're like, and this game traditionally has been a war. You turn on South Carolina, Georgia the first couple of weeks to watch SEC football because that's what it was. It embodied it. A lot of pad popping. I still remember sitting in the north end zone in 16. Dondrell Pinkins, the Gamecocks are driving after blowing a 2016 lead. And I think it was Greg Blue hit Pinkins so hard you could hear it from where I was sitting. And that's what Georgia, South Carolina is when it's good. I think you even look at the game, Carolina won in Athens. In 19, Carolina matched their physicality. I think that's a big key for this weekend because when they don't match Georgia's physicality, they usually get boat raced. And I think that's probably an understated key. We've talked about X's and O's and all that, but I think that's understated. You got to go out. You got to man up. You got to play tough. You got to play big boy football this weekend.
Yeah, JC, I was actually going to bring that up, too. I'm glad you do. I saw your article on thebigspur.com, and I totally agree with you. Physicality, especially on the defensive side, right? You think, I mean, I know we had that 35-7 game in 2012. I think a 2011 really high scoring, but a lot of these games in the series, especially when they've been close, have been those low scoring, like you said, like just nasty SEC battles in the trenches. I mean, I think back, when I first started watching the South Carolina Georgia series intently as a diehard fan was 2003. I think that was my first real South Carolina Georgia game, remembering the game vividly. 2004, you bring up heartbreaker. I mean, an absolute heartbreaker. But, even in Spurrier's tenure before they were beating them, 05, right, was a really, really tough game. Yes, I mean, there's been physicality for sure over the years, and where you've seen that kind of get lost, you've seen the scores inflate, right, especially on the Georgia side. So I agree with you 110%. We've preached it the first 3 weeks of the season. Georgia State, you need to be physical. You knew what they were going to be all about. Arkansas, heck, we know what they're all about. Georgia's just going to be more of the same, and I think at an even higher level. So, listen, I'm sure that's the emphasis in the building this week is just win the battle at the line of scrimmage, win the battle at the point of attack, and be the more physical football team, and simply put, line up and whip the man in front of you. Because, I look at Stetson Bennett's passing statistics right now and over 300 in the first two games. But I still, when I think of Georgia football, I think of line up in the I formation, run it down your throats. And, you have to think they're sitting there in the film room this week thinking that's a matchup they can obviously exploit and win. So I do agree with you, JC. I love the sentiment of your article. When you look at this South Carolina Georgia series, again, there have been times where it's been high score. Hey, 2014, right? That was maybe my favorite game in the series in regards to just an overall entertaining football game, watching Spurrier do his thing and, Carolina and Georgia go back and forth. So but most of the time, like you mentioned, it is physicality. It is getting after each other's throats, and it's an all-out war. And, that's what you hope to see in this game on Saturday.
Yeah, bring it back. Even in that game, too, it wasn't, South Carolina's defense obviously left a lot to be desired. But, you kind of look at it, Brandon Wilds goes off left tackle for a 25-yard touchdown run, and then Carolina,
the game came down to a 4th and inches. The game came down to a 4th and inches. That kind of summarizes Carolina Georgia.
You got to man it up against these guys. Georgia, that's the DNA of Georgia's program. They sometimes they haven't been good. Okay, we'll be honest. Over the years, Georgia sometimes isn't very good, but they're always going to bring their lunch pail. They're always going to be physical, and like you said, they're always going to try to run the football. That's kind of who they are. I think this year they've done a pretty good job of being balanced through 2 games. And I kind of felt the same thing about last year. I think Todd Monken's adjusted some things without getting away from the base. But you're right. I think Carolina's going to have to step up on the defensive line and play big boy football this weekend. I think linebackers, safeties, corners, whoever. I mean, they're going to have to play.
And it's a great – I was just going to say, JC, it's a great week to challenge those guys. You know what I mean? We give critical analysis and takes and opinions, and the statistics say what they're going to say. And bottom line is statistics don't line up well in this game. But if I'm those defensive coaches, especially on the defensive side, if I'm those guys in the building, it's like, dude, you were rated what you were rated for a reason. You were recruited here for a reason. Georgia wanted you for a reason. Like, let's go out and prove it. You know what I mean? Like, maybe try not to be defined by what the first 2 weeks say. I know that's tough. I mean, listen, Georgia's got their guys, and do I love the matchup? No. Am I going to make a prediction on it? No. But if I'm those guys, I'm challenging that defensive front, man. Like at some point, mute
his mic real quick. Uh-oh. There you go. Now let me know when we get Chris back. Oh my gosh.
Coming back now.
All right. By the way, Jared, you bet your butt that was a Steve Winwood bust out.
Yeah.
Think about it. Hey, you didn't see nothing yet. I can get the Steve Winwood going. It's gonna be awesome.
Both of my daughters attached to that song.
It's got a nice beat to it.
Awesome,
think about it. It makes you feel good. After kind of some negative emotion earlier today, I was like, well, it's good to kind of get the Steve Winwood going, if not in your voice, in your heart.
That's right. Yeah.
J-Rock. Be nice, J-Rock Beats. Be nice. Come on, buddy. We don't need that. We don't need that. So,
my uncle chiming in here with we got some dogs in the box.
Oh my goodness.
Got a dog in the box.
Oh no. Ron is a dog, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Hey, I was on and we'll have Jordan Hill from Dogs 24/7 on tomorrow. I was on this podcast yesterday. I didn't realize it was live. He did it on StreamYard, and they had a chat box. And I'm glad I didn't roll over there, right? I think I was getting blasted. I mean, I really, honest to God, I think I was getting destroyed.
Probably.
I glanced at it, and you saw this. They're gonna get beat by worse than 24 points and all this other stuff. So, all that good stuff.
You just got to bring your big boy pants on Saturday. I mean,
they're bringing their silver breeches. You got to bring your dang big boy pants.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the case whenever you play Georgia. That's the way they've been since I've been alive. Since we've been alive, Georgia. Even when they're not good, they're going to play physical, and you're going to play very physical football.
Very physical football. And we got Chris back here, so we're going to bring him back in. Come on back. Man.
Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know. Last 2 times or so I've been on StreamYard. It is just, I don't know, just kind of bugged out on us. But
I thought you put some kind of EDM filter over it or something.
Dude, I don't know. Technology's great until it isn't. So
right.
I'll tell you this right now. You mentioned the Muschamp Hackers. This week, that's why you sounded like Max Headroom there for a while. I was like, duh, 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 duh.
Yeah, trying to do my best rendition of Sandstorm.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
right. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So you mentioned Stetson Bennett. Do you think he, you hear the term belief with him sometimes, and then you hear some things that sound like disbelief. I mean, even up to the championship game last year, their fans and a lot of media were calling for JT Daniels. JT Daniels, to me, had a good game against Carolina last year. Probably not that good, especially seeing as how West Virginia's off to such a great start. It's just a bit, how do you kind of counteract him? What would you do if you're Carolina to disrupt the short passing attack that they have? Because they're going to hit you short, they're going to hit you long, and they're going to try to throw it to Bowers and let him break tackles and go to the end zone. So how would you kind of defend him and try to disrupt what they do on offense?
Yeah, we talked to Anthony Treesh about this yesterday, JC, of Pro Football Focus, and I guess he presented an interesting question as well: would you sell out against the pass or against the run when it comes to Georgia? Because my mind immediately goes to, again, the physicality and winning the point of attack and stopping the run, but they have thrown the ball so well that I don't know that you can do that. Do you almost need to more so defend against that pass, because they will nickel and dime you to death, and that's kind of what Stetson did if you look in that first game against Oregon. I think a lot of stunts and twists up front. I mean, you got to get pressure. You got to make him uncomfortable. If you allow him to sit back there 7-on-7, just pick you apart, it's going to be a really, really long day. I mean, bottom line is this: you need Georgia to not be at their best. I mean, the Dogs just can't be as sharp as they possibly can play, because I think there's only one team in college football. People think I'm beating up on the Gamecocks when I say that they have no shot if Georgia plays their A game. I think Alabama is the only team in the country that can beat them if they play their A game. I mean, I think Georgia's that good. I think they're one of the elites yet again. So getting pressure on Stetson Bennett, that's going to be the name of the game, making him uncomfortable. You need big games from guys like Jordan Birch. I mean, I was about to say, it's unfortunate. Jordan Strawn, Mo Kaba down with injury. You're hurting on the front. You need guys like Gilbert Edmond and Terrell Dawkins and those guys to step up. You need those big defensive tackles, the Hemingways and the Pickens. And, will Huntley go? I guess we don't know. We might find out more tonight from Shane Beamer. But getting in the face of Stetson, getting that pressure. And then I think guys are just going to have to win individual matchups, bottom line. And I know that's much easier said than done, but because Georgia's just got so many ways to beat you, man. You look at their tight end room alone and just look at those guys. And, they had 3 dudes, I think, on preseason award, watch lists at the tight end position alone. So they're dynamic. They're tough to stop. You need a little bit of good fortune and luck to go your way to slow them down. But I think if you get in Stetson Bennett's face and you create some exotic blitz packages and, I'll be curious to see how Clayton White attacks them. I think you have to be on the attack, though. I don't think you can let them nickel and dime you to death. So I'm not saying, send all 11 and just roll the dice, but I think you need to be the aggressor and on the attack and hope that Georgia, is willing to make a mistake or two.
Talking with Chris Phillips, the Spurs Up show. I'm going to give myself credit here. I told a lot of Gamecock fans this because Carolina lost him in recruiting, Warren McClendon. And they were like, well, he'll never play at Georgia. He's just going because of his family, whatever. I got a good look at it. I was like, no, that kid's probably going to start for 3 years. And lo and behold, there he is. He's going to, I think, be matched up with Birch, maybe Edmond, depending on which side they go. Jordan Birch, to me, there was some talk about him in preseason. And he wasn't completely healthy. And I think, actually, through 2 games, unless this is going to sound crazy, I was concerned we were going to see the Jordan Birch we've seen in, limited action the last 2 years. I think he's played all right. I think he's played physical. He's played fast. He's made plays. He's had sacks. He's had tackles for loss. Your kind of take on his what he's done so far through 2 games, with the understanding that he needs to even take it up. The whole team really needs to take up another notch this weekend. They need him to go out there and really, like you said, win his individual battles and be disruptive and start becoming who a lot of folks thought he was going to be.
No, listen, I've loved what I've seen from Jordan Birch, especially last week. What do you have? 2 tackles for loss, a sack in that one. And, I was going to say, I know he had a missed tackle or 2, but the entire defense did. So everybody on that end needs to raise their level. And it's not exactly easy tackling guys like Rocket Sanders and KJ Jefferson and those boulders of players, if you will. But, listen, I was critical of Birch in the preseason. And the only reason I was is because we expect so much of him and the ceiling is so high and we know what he's capable of. And so I think last week was a great step. I'd like to see him do it yet again against elite competition. You saw kind of glimpses of what he can be. You know, again, he needs the other guys to help him out. There's 10 of the dudes on that defense that, you know, everybody I think would agree needs to level or raise their level of play. But I was happy with what Birch did last week. I really was. It was encouraging signs. I mean, again, we all believe it's still in there. It's in the tank, and that, you know, he's not going to be Jadeveon Clowney. But again, when you're rated as high as he was, the expectations just come with it. So it was really encouraging signs last week. And, you know, he looked really explosive, really dynamic. I felt like he lived in the backfield for a lot of that game last week. And again, KJ Jefferson, tough guy to bring down. His stats could have been even better. So I'm excited moving forward. I mean, especially with the absence of Strawn now for the year. I mean, he's just a dude you desperately need to play his best football. You know, again, you don't need him to go be an All-American, but, like, we need to see the best version of, or if not close to the best version of what he can do. Because if he gives you that, I think he does have, you know, all-conference type of talent, which I think goes without saying.
I think he can take a step this year if he, you know, let's say he has a big game this weekend and the light starts to really come on and he's one of the star players on the defense. I think he could go, you know, all conference consideration this year. And if he elects to come back next season, could really be something special. I always kind of felt he needed to develop. And, you know, he had in 2020, he had COVID for a long time and missed a lot of time. It was such a weird year. But good to see him. I mean, you know, you weren't the only one in the preseason that was concerned. I mean, to be honest, I mean, it was Tony Morrell on the Big Spur wrote something about it. I mean, it was kind of common knowledge, and some of my contacts indicated the same thing. But I think in game action, he's done really well. Gilbert Edmond, here's a guy they took in recruiting at the end. Flipped him from Jeff Scott in South Florida, who I think had him committed for a day, from Fort Pierce, Florida, which is where Khalil Mack comes from. I don't know why people don't recruit Fort Pierce better, because Khalil Mack went to Buffalo before he went to the NFL and was one of the best players there. I kind of like what I've seen in the limited action he's been in, but you know, I also kind of like to get. I kind of have an affinity for 6'5", 260-pound long arm DN. So, I want to get your take on him and how he's going to hold up out there against the Georgia Bulldogs.
No, I think he's a solid player. I mean, again, like you said, tons of upside, really long kid, 6'5", 250. So you like those bigger body dudes. Like you said, those long physical DNs kind of reminds you of the Devin Taylors back in the day. Maybe not to that level, but some of the guys we had back in the early 2010s that I've talked with Coach Brad Lawing about so many times. And Brad Lawing, actually, when I talked about him a couple months ago, you know, we mentioned Gilbert Edmond, and he was a guy that he was looking forward to seeing this season. Felt like he, you know, from going out to practice, was a guy that stood out. You know, wasn't sure quite the impact he was going to make, but felt like he was a guy that could make a positive impact on this football team. So you like the size, you like the athleticism. Again, like you mentioned, Fort Pierce, Florida, Westwood High School. You know, I think the upside is there. Now it's just about putting it all together and putting it together on the field. I know he's got 2 tackles for loss early on this season, but you know, we will learn a lot about a lot of different dudes in this game against Georgia. And that's what's been so intriguing, JC and Phil, about early in this season is like this first 3-game stretch wasn't going to, I mean, I guess unless you lost to Georgia State, I was going to say wasn't going to define your season necessarily. There's no shame in losing to Arkansas and Georgia. But I think what it's serving as is giving everyone a very, very realistic view of where we are. And for some folks, a dose of humble pie, if you will. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. So, you know, I'm excited for Edmond. I'm excited for Terrell Dawkins. I'm excited to see what Birch does. You know, obviously we all want to see more of the defensive front, the defensive line. I talked about that, and the numbers speak for themselves. 200 yards rushing against Georgia State, 295 against Arkansas. You can spin that however you want. Defense is on the field too long. End of the day, that's just what the numbers say you are. So you got a great opportunity and a great challenge this weekend. But, yeah, Gilbert Edmond's one of those dudes that you know, what his ceiling is, I don't know, but I think he does have a high one. And again, you love that length and that explosiveness and athleticism off the edge. So, listen, it'll take him, Birch, and that entire crew to slow down Georgia. And, you know, we'll see if it's enough when the clock's at 0.
Yeah, like 2020, Carolina's playing Kentucky at the end of the year. And it's like, you know, I think Gilbert's grown about 2 inches since he's been here. He's a freshman that year. And you look out there and you're like, well gosh, there's Gilbert Edmond playing linebacker. He and Darrell Ware and Ernest Jones were the 3 linebackers against Kentucky.
That 2020 Kentucky game just feels like such a blur. Because I think what we took like 45 players with us. It was just like
Shane News broke that night. It, I remember broke right after that game. And so you knew who the coach was going to be right after that. So, you know, you see what happens there. All right, so the big debate this week on offense. Do you try to establish the run and beat Georgia at their own game? Do you continue to try to because I'm conflicted really, because I understand the point, hey, you need to stay on the field. You need to keep your defense, especially with the injuries on defense. You got a thin defense. It's not going to be terribly hot, but it'll be a day you can get some fatigue, especially against these guys. So I think there's a need to stay on the field. There's a need to run the football and keep Georgia honest. I think the question is, can you? And I think you look at the teams that have scored against Georgia. There's really been one, and that's Alabama, and they threw it over the top of those guys and mixed in some runs here and there. Now, South Carolina's system is different. It's not an RPO deal, but I can see both sides. I just want to get your take.
I mean, you'd like to try to be stingy in the run game and try to use this as a game to figure it out, but you don't want to do that and sacrifice what the final score is going to look like, right? You got to do what's just going to work in this ball game. So while we all want to see a run game start to be established and start to see the offensive line have some push and some success, I just don't know how coming into a game against Georgia, the number one ranked defense in the country that hasn't allowed a touchdown, and you haven't been able to run the ball for whatever reason. And I understand early in the game last week, you look at I think I saw an article from somebody, first and second down, you average this many yards per carry. And, folks talked about they abandoned the run game. And Shane Beamer was very clear after Arkansas, hey, this was our game plan, which was go down the field, throw the football, which I think was the right game plan to have due to the matchup. I just don't know how a South Carolina running game that is searching for itself and hasn't figured it out, how Georgia is the team that you're going to figure it out against. So I think you got to continue to spread it out, get the ball on the outside of your playmakers, try to win some one-on-one opportunities. I mean, I think we need to get Jaheim Bell more involved. I mean, listen, 4 carries for 5 yards last week. Granted, one was a touchdown, but no catches. Like I just don't think that can happen. You know what I mean? I just don't think that can happen. So get the ball to your playmakers, get the ball to your athletes. I just, like you said, I don't know how you're going to beat Georgia at their own game. I think you've got to be creative in the play calling, no doubt. When you want to run the football, be creative. You know what I mean? So I think this is the week, obviously, you empty the kitchen sink, right? We heard a lot early in the season about you're not showing the playbook. This is where you empty it. You empty the playbook, whatever you got. You got any trick plays? You got any gadget plays? You got Dak Joyner and a Wildcat? Do something. You know what I mean? Maybe Dak gets the running game going. Maybe Dakereon Joyner saying he's healthy, or if he is healthy, getting him out there, maybe get him out there for a drive, right? Let him just keep the Georgia defense on their heels. Mix it up. I don't know. You know what I mean? Because
I would do it for a drive. Yeah.
Yeah. For a drive. I mean, I'm not. Yeah.
Putting him in for a play last year didn't really work. I think he's got to get into a rhythm and stuff.
Right.
So,
right. And now he has the threat to throw the football. So I'm just saying if you need it, you know what I mean? Because there's a high probability that you probably will. So, but I think you've got to spread it out. I just don't see how. There's nothing, at least from the first 2 games, that tells you this is going to be the week where, South Carolina just goes out there and runs for 150 and they get a consistent push and Spencer Rattler's got all day to throw. Like, I want to believe that could happen, but there's nothing that has shown us that it will. So, if you got to put it all on 7, and it's unfortunate if you do, but if you got to put it all on 7, I say you do. I say you give him a shot, let you win the game, go down the field, take shots. Let him use that elite arm talent and try to mix in the run where you can.
I'll also say this: in 2020, Georgia's defense was not close to their 2021 defense. 2020, 2 teams that really gave them trouble too were that Florida team with, Kyle Trask throwing it all over the place, right? Florida lit them up in the first half. I mean, straight up lit them up. They had 38 at halftime in 2020, and Mississippi State in 2020 came to Athens, and I think the final in that game was 31-24. They gave Georgia some problems. So after considering all that, I'm like, it's probably not the week to get the run game going.
Right.
I think you need to try to. And I like what they did on the first drive against Arkansas. I mean, obviously that was a game that they intentionally wanted to air it out, but hey, you had Spencer on the keeper, the little counter there. Then you did the little thing to Jaheim and. All that, maybe some things like that mixed in could give you some semblance of a running game and keep them.
Yeah. I mean, JC, it's like you said, you make picks and you make projections off what you've seen, not what you hope will happen. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, there's just, there's just nothing that tells you from the first 2 weeks that you are going to run the ball or stop the run. Now, we've got to have hope. Fans have got to have hope and belief, but looking at it from a clear, realistic view, just evaluating this football game, taking out the bias, taking out the fan side of things, you look at the matchup, and for the second straight week, it just doesn't favor you, like on either side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to be too harsh, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't really see a position where I'm like, South Carolina has the advantage. I just don't see it. That doesn't mean they can't pull an upset. That doesn't mean they can't, do the unthinkable. That doesn't mean they can't make it a close game. But like on paper, I don't see that. Now, thank God the game's not played on paper. 2019 would have never happened, right? So crazy things can happen when Carolina, Georgia play, but I think you need kind of that same recipe to take place that took place in 19. You need a couple of weird turnovers, interceptions, fumbles, whatever. I think you probably need a defensive score. You need Beamer ball to show itself, maybe a block punt or block kick, and you just need some good fortune to find your way, and you need 7 to play the best game of his life. You do all those things, you have a raucous Willie B, fans start to taste blood in the water, and it's a one-score game going to the fourth quarter. Well, then all bets are off because, unfortunately for Georgia, they'll have allowed Carolina to believe they have actually got a shot to win the game. Just get to the fourth quarter down 1 score, and you do that again, all bets are off. You never know.
Yep. Absolutely. Wrap it up with Chris Phillips with the Spurs Up Show, man. Thanks for coming on, and I'll talk to you here in about an hour and 15, and looking forward to it, bud.